Welcome to the Prism Path Knit Swoncho. The time has come for us to tackle the color work. I am so excited to get started on this part of the Swoncho because this is what makes you want to just keep on going so that you can see how all of the colors mix and meld together. By this point, you should have your ribbing, your back neck shaping, and the first few rows of your Swoncho complete, and you're ready to switch over to a larger needle if that is what you need to get gauge with your color work. So we're going to switch to a larger needle and we're going to dive in with chart number 1. Now remember, if you are a VIPer, you get the stitch fiddle link for charts number 1 through 7, and you can go in and change the colors to fit the colors you are using on your own Swoncho. So make sure you take advantage of that. You will also find that you can download this chart PDF directly from your Marley Birdhouse course, and this chart will also be included in your final full PDF of the pattern. If you're following along with the free version, the chart is included in the instructions on the blog post located at marleybird.com. All right, go ahead, grab your colors you will be using today, grab your homework, or grab your needles, and let's dive in and do some fun stranded color work. And away we go. We are going to be following along with chart number 1, which has us use our color B. So whatever your color B is going to be, for me, that's going to be this pink color. We will be using color C. For me, that's going to be this poolside color. And we will be using color D. For me, that is going to be a buff sort of white color. Okay, so to get started here with our main color here, our color A, we do not need this attached anymore. So we want to make sure that we cut that off and make sure you leave a tail that is at least 4 to 6 inches. Okay, that will make things so much easier when it comes time to weave in your ends. Now for me, I like to take whatever my new color is and I just tie it around the tail of the color I just finished. So nothing too super secure or anything. It's just enough so that my yarn I'm going to be using can butt right up next to the stitch that I just finished. And it just helps me keep my tension better. You do not have to do this. And I'm not going to keep that knot in place when I go to weave in my ends. It's purely there just to hold the yarn for me. Okay. With the first color ready to go, the next thing I have to prepare for is switching over to my larger and longer circular needles. I'm going to work this entire first round with my longer needles, and that will get everything onto the larger needles, which will match my gauge for the 1 color stockinette stitch. Okay. To do that, all I'm going to do is I will remove my starting round marker because it will just fall off here at the beginning. And then I am going to begin knitting into this first stitch, but I will be using the needles that I want to get my work onto. Now, my very first stitch following chart number 1 is with my color B. So I would knit 1 with my color B. Now, the next color is with my color C, and that's my main color, right? Well, for me, like I said, it's this sort of teal color, and I'm not going to tie this on like I did the pink. Okay. I don't find it's necessary because I'm a little bit further past where that joint is. So I'm just going to put my yarn around my needle, leaving a nice long tail. I always leave a nice long tail, and then I will pull that through the stitch. Okay. Now, because this color here is the color that is used the most in chart number 1, I want that to be my dominant color. So I will hold that color in my left hand. I like to do my color work with a color in each hand. Hopefully you'll be able to do the same, but we'll talk about options for not doing it that way. With the color in my left hand, that's going to make sure that every time I use this teal color, it's going to pop off the fabric just a little bit more than whatever color I use in my right hand. The color in my left hand is also going to be the float that travels underneath the float of the color in my right hand. And you'll see what I mean as I go along. Okay, the next color on my chart is the pink. Next color is the teal. And next color is the pink. And that's the end of my chart. It's a 5-stitch repeat. And now I begin again. And yes, I begin with pink. We have 2 pinks side by side. So pink, teal, pink, teal, and pink. By this point, I need to make sure that I'm coming over here to my needle with all the stitches on it. And I want to make sure that these stitches are nicely spaced out the same distance as I would want them to be when they are on my fabric. Okay. I don't want them to be super squished together, because if I do that, as I do my floats are going to be too small, and you cannot block out floats that are too tight. Your work is going to pucker. So it's much better to make sure your floats are nice and uniform as it goes from one stitch to the next stitch. It is not scrunching up any of the stitches in between. Okay. And we're going to keep doing this all the way around. Okay. So I do pink, teal, pink, teal, and pink. Okay. Now I get it. I make this look really easy with the yarn in both hands. I've been doing it a long time. And it is something that you could do. Like, it's something you absolutely could practice on, but maybe you don't want to do it right now. Well, that's absolutely fine. You could do it where maybe you drop the color each time and you want to keep one color towards the right and one color towards the left to make sure your floats are all uniform and in the same place throughout. We absolutely can do that. Let me show you how I would go about doing that. So for me, I am a continental knitter, so I knit with the yarn in my left hand naturally. So as I'm supposed to do the next stitch, what I would do is I would drop my main color and I would hold it over here towards the left. And then I would come over here and I would pick up my other color, right? My color that I want to use now. And I would pick it up and make that stitch. And then I would drop this color, put it over back to the right, pick up my main color again, or not my, my color that's in the left, and put it back over there. You see that? Okay. It's tedious, right? Because you're dropping your yarn every time and you want to be consistent, right? You absolutely could do it this way. Okay. Same thing if you have your yarn in your right hand, you could drop a color each time. So I'm dropping that one. I'm picking up the pink. I have 2 in the pink here. And then I would drop and then pick this one up. Notice I'm going underneath the pink when I pick up the teal. And then when I drop the teal, my pink is going over top of the teal right there. Okay. So I'm keeping it consistent. Okay. I know there are people who like to hold the yarn in one hand like this, and you could do that. All right. You could do that if that's something you like to do. What I don't like about that is I struggle to keep my yarn in the right place where it's supposed to be. But that's a personal thing. All of this is all about personal preference, right? It's all about what works best for you. But if holding your yarn in one hand and going about it like this is good for you, then you absolutely could do that, right? I'm able to, that one, look at that. I made that way too big. So that's clearly a mistake there, but I've made my floats nice and neat back here. And then looking back, I can see I have a mistake right there. So look how big that float is. Like, that's huge. So I would not want to keep that. I definitely would want to tink back and fix that. So I would just undo these stitches until I get back to where that mishap is. And then I would start again. All right. So it looks like it's right here, and pull that out. Okay. And yes, row 1 of this chart, it has 2 pinks side by side, right? Because it's a 5-stitch repeat. It's a 5-stitch repeat. I'm getting all of my stitches on my larger needle, which is what I will be using throughout the rest of the colorwork section of my work. Okay. It just works out very nice. You can see my floats are very nice and neat on the back. None of them are too tight. They all are about the same distance apart, which is exactly what I want. I want them to be comfortable. All right. So what I want to do right now is let's get all the way around with this first round, and then we're going to transition to the second round, and then I'm going to let you go on your merry little way and continue on with your chart number 1. Okay. So I'll see you at the end of the round. This is my last stitch of the round. And I want you to see a couple things. 1, the size 8 needle is done. 2, you're going to see that that stretches out a little bit because there's nothing holding on to that blue yarn there. It's not worked into a stitch, so it's going to get loose, and that's totally okay. I just don't want you to be like, oh, I did something wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. Your work should be all the way around your circular needle now. And it's at this point you can re-add your beginning of your round marker, okay? You have some tails here. Now we aren't going to worry about the tails yet, but as we complete each chart, we are going to look at weaving in our tails as we go. We do not want to wait to the very end, okay? So I'm at the end of my round, and I'm getting ready to go to round 2. Now, round 2, because we are reading the chart from right to left, every single round, right to left, right to left, right to left, we are going to begin with the very first stitch on round 2 and then follow through the chart in that way. What's great now is because we have a base round of stitches, we can see if we have made a mistake really quickly, because not only will we know what the stitch color is that we're supposed to be making, we will be able to see what color the stitch is we should be working into. Let me show you what I mean here. Okay. Again, I want to make sure I'm still holding the yarn in my same positions, right? So I want to make sure that the teal yarn is still over here. For me, it's on my left hand. Okay. My very first stitch on round 2 is with the teal. Okay. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to knit with my teal. Okay. Then I'm going to knit with my pink. And what you will see is I am working into the teal color stitch, but I'm creating a pink. And if you look at the chart, you will notice that this next stitch, right? The next stitch on row 1 was a pink. And on row 2, round 2, it's a teal working into the pink. The next stitch on round 1 is a teal, and you can see I'm supposed to make this stitch pink. And the next stitch on round 1 for the 5th stitch was a pink, and I'm making it teal. Do you see what I mean here? So I can quickly see, oh, look, all of a sudden I'm putting a teal into a teal. Something is off. Is it off on that row or this row? Okay. If you are able to pay attention to these little things, it will help you maintain consistency, because as we're doing these little 5-stitch repeats here, it can be really easy to just overlook something and put 2 stitches side by side, which I've done quite often. But if you're able to pay attention to, oh, look, I'm doing the opposite color than what I'm working into, it will make it really easy for you to keep track. Okay. Another thing you could do is, yes, we're doing a 5-stitch repeat, but maybe you want to add a stitch marker like every 2 repeats. So you could put it like every 10 stitches. And then you would know, hey, I have 2 repeats here within this 10 stitches, 2 repeats here within the 10 stitches. And that's a great way to help you keep track of where you are as well. Okay. When you jump over and you create for the second round, everything should look, pretty good here. It might look like it comes apart a little bit with the stitches because we haven't woven in our ends, but don't stress that out. We'll be able to clear that up when we go to weave in our tails. Okay, that will be all cleared up. But we're going to just keep going here, and you just keep working around and around just like this, and you just try to maintain your gauge. Okay. The biggest thing here is we want to make sure that our gauge stays the same throughout the entire project. And our goal here, if you remember from the gauge video, is we are trying to make our colorwork stitches the same size as our non-colorwork stitches. That's the whole goal here. So if for some reason, maybe the size 9 needle, maybe it makes your stitches too big and you need to use a size 8, you absolutely could do that. Okay, so don't automatically assume the size 9 is what you need to do, especially if you didn't do your gauge swatch. Really pay attention to what your stitches look like as you're working these rounds, okay? And that will make sure that you have a project that you are very proud of. When it comes time to change colors again, you do want to make sure that you cut your tail, leaving a nice long tail. 4 to 6 inches is a good rule of thumb. So leave 4 to 6 inches, and then when you add on the yarn, just like I did over here, make sure you leave 4 to 6 inches. Okay, 4 to 6 inches, so that way you can weave those in. What I want you to do right now is go ahead, complete your chart number 1. And then what you will notice is the next thing you have to do is a round with just your color A. So you'll go back to color A, okay? And you're going to do a round of increases. And those increases include a knit front and back, all right? So I know that we used a make one earlier up in this section. I chose to do a knit front and back in this section because I like the way I get like that little color blip with the knit front and back. Let's take a look at the sample so I can show you what I mean by that, okay? Okay, so here is my sample, and here obviously is my chart number 1. And if you take a look down here, you can see I have these little blips of blue as they work around with my color A there. Those were created because of my knit front and back, all right? I loved the way this looks. I love the way this looks. When you do a knit front and back, you know, the stitch that you're working into becomes like a little purl bump on the right side. And I love how I get that little bit of extra color work without having to do extra work. It's just doing my increases. I get them down here too after I complete my second chart. I get little blips of purple. And when I complete my third chart, I get a blip of this orange, I get a blip of green, and then I get a blip of orange, and I get a blip of green. And as you go on, like down here, I get a blip of purple. Down here, I didn't get a blip. It's all pink down here because it's all worked into these pinks. As you look down here in this section, it's worked into these little orange blips. So I chose to do a knit front and back on purpose because I like the way those little added touches of color get worked into your project. So I just think it's a fun way to add just that little bits of extra color, and it's a very easy increase. So if you are new to colorwork and you're new to knitting in general, chances are you do know what a knit front and back is. And it's a really easy stitch to do because the stitch you're working into is right there on the needle. You don't have to find which bar to pick up for a make one. It's just a really great increase. Having said that, I have had some people who ask me, you know, what if I did a yarn over increase? Could I do that? Yeah, you could do that. If you wanted to do a yarn over increase, you could. Clearly, that's going to leave little holes along your work, but if that's the look you're going for, you could do that as well. The most important part is that as we transition from chart 1 to chart 2 to chart 3 to chart 4, we will always be using color A for our increase row between each of the charts, okay? Each of the charts increase sequentially, I think that's the word, from one size to the next. We're going to go from 5 stitch repeat to 6 stitch repeat to 7 stitch repeat to 8 stitch repeat, so on and so forth. Now our increase is going to be moved around. They're not going to all be like knit 1 increase, knit 2 increase, knit 3 increase. They're going to be moved around a little bit, again, to accommodate the color that I wanted to pop through. I wanted to make sure that we were working into a color that I wanted to pop through on the right side of the fabric. So there's a method to my madness. When you look at everything, you're like, wait a minute, this is, you know, it seems like my increases are out of order. Why did she do that? That's why I wanted those colors to all kind of work. But more than anything, as long as you're following along with the instructions and doing those increases and getting the correct number at the end of that increase round, that's what we need, because with each of those charts, they have their own stitch multiple. And so we want to make sure that those multiples work out with the number of stitches that you have. So your homework is to complete chart number 1, work an increase round, complete chart number 2, and work an increase round. And then you will be ready for chart number 3, and so on and so forth. And you're going to get very addicted to this. You're going to get very addicted to this. Okay. So go have fun with chart number 1. I'll see you later. Bye guys.